I thought he was the love of my life. But when I saw it, everything changed forever. Stay tuned for the shocking truth, and don't forget to subscribe for more heart-wrenching stories. Everything about my marriage with Tom seemed perfect. We met in college, and from that day, it felt like we were inseparable. We supported each other through the ups and downs of life, and after graduation, we both found jobs and started building a future together. Our relationship was the kind people envied, a picture of stability, love, and shared dreams. Tom was always attentive and affectionate. He was everything I ever wanted in a partner. He would come home after work with flowers, make dinner for us on weekends, and was always ready to listen to my worries or share his own. It was the kind of relationship I had always dreamed of, and I truly believed we had something special. But it wasn't long before small cracks started to show. At first, I dismissed them as nothing. The late nights at work, the sudden changes in plans, the days he seemed distracted, things I thought were just part of the pressures of life. I trusted him. I trusted our relationship, and I never imagined anything could come between us. After all, we had built a life together, a home filled with memories. Then came the day that changed everything. It started off as any other morning. I had an appointment that day, so I woke up early to get ready. Tom had left for work earlier than usual. He gave me a quick kiss on the cheek and told me he had a meeting and would be late. It wasn't unusual for him to work late, so I didn't think much of it. But something kept nagging at me that day. As I got dressed and looked in the mirror, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It was a weird gut feeling I couldn't explain. Still, I tried to brush it off and focused on my day. I told myself I was just being paranoid. Later that afternoon, as I was sorting through some papers at home, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from Tom's email account, an alert that he had received a text message. I don't know why, but I couldn't help myself. I opened the message, telling myself it was just curiosity. It was a decision I'd regret. The message was short and vague, but it sent a chill down my spine. It was from a name I didn't recognize. "Hey, I miss you. I can't wait to see you tonight. Let's pick up where we left off last time." My heart stopped. It was a message filled with intimacy, and it wasn't directed at me. It was clear that Tom was having an affair. My mind raced with confusion and disbelief. I couldn't process what I was reading. I thought I had been imagining things, but this message confirmed my worst fear. He had been lying to me, and I had no idea. I immediately felt a surge of anger, followed by an overwhelming sense of betrayal. The person I had trusted most in the world had broken my heart, and I had no idea how to handle it. But I knew I couldn't just sit there and do nothing. I had to know the truth. I had to confront him. I waited, unable to focus on anything else, as the hours ticked by. My thoughts were consumed by the image of Tom with someone else, someone who wasn't me. I replayed the message over and over in my head, each time feeling the sting of betrayal deeper. When Tom finally came home, I was waiting for him. My mind was racing, but I had to remain calm, or I would say things I didn't mean. He walked in, looking tired but smiling, as though nothing was wrong. He didn't even notice the tension in the room. "Hey, babe," he greeted me casually, putting his bag down. I didn't say anything. I just stared at him, and I could see a flicker of confusion in his eyes. He sat down on the couch beside me, clearly not expecting what was coming. Without a word, I slid his phone across the table. His face paled as he saw the screen, the same message I had read earlier staring back at him. The air thickened with silence. I waited for him to speak, but nothing came. He didn't know how to react, and that made everything worse. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, he spoke, his voice trembling. I I can explain?" "Explain?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "How do you explain this, Tom? How do you explain the lies, the secret messages, and the betrayal? Who is she? How long has this been going on?" His eyes shifted nervously, and I could see him trying to come up with something, anything, to justify his actions. But I wasn't interested in his excuses anymore. I was broken, shattered by the reality of what I had just uncovered. His silence said everything I needed to know. He couldn't even look me in the eye. "I'm sorry," he said weakly, his voice barely above a whisper. "It was a mistake. A stupid mistake." A mistake? A mistake that had lasted who knows how long? His words made me feel sick. How could he sit there and call it a mistake? A mistake was forgetting to pick up groceries. A mistake was misplacing your keys. This wasn't a mistake. This was betrayal. As I looked at him, the man I once thought I knew, I realized the truth was something I could never undo. I had trusted him completely, and now all of that trust was gone. What hurt the most was not just the affair. It was the fact that he had been lying to me, pretending everything was fine while sneaking around behind my back. But the real twist came when I heard the doorbell ring. My heart dropped when I saw a woman standing at the door. She was holding a bag and looked nervous but determined. As she stepped inside, she turned to me and said, "I'm sorry. I think it's time you know the whole truth." The woman standing at the door wasn't just anyone. My mind raced as I tried to process her words, her presence. I looked back at Tom, who had gone pale and was visibly sweating. He didn't know what to say. His silence screamed volumes. The woman's eyes were filled with regret, but also something else, something that felt like a mix of guilt and relief. She stepped inside, as though she had been there before, and quietly closed the door behind her. Her hands trembled slightly, and she avoided making direct eye contact with me. "I know this is probably the last thing you expected," she said softly, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "But I think you need to hear the full story." I was frozen. I felt like my entire world was crashing down around me. Everything I thought I knew about my marriage, about Tom, was slowly unraveling in front of me. I looked at him again, but this time my anger was tempered by something else, something more profound. This wasn't just about him anymore. This was about the betrayal that had infected every part of my life. This woman was part of it, and I needed to know why she was here. "Who are you?" I finally managed to ask, my voice hoarse. "Why are you here?" The woman took a deep breath before answering. "I'm Vanessa. I'm the one your husband has been seeing." My stomach dropped as I heard her name. But somehow, it wasn't the shock of hearing her name that hit me the hardest. It was the fact that she wasn't ashamed to be there, standing in front of me, speaking the truth. She was brave. Too brave, it seemed. It was as though she was ready to finally face the consequences of everything she had been part of. "Why come here?" I whispered, barely able to believe what was happening. "Why tell me all this now? Why didn't you just stay away?" Vanessa looked at me, her face softening. "I never wanted to hurt you. I never meant for this to happen. But I'm tired of living a lie. The whole situation has become a mess, and I can't keep hiding. I owe you the truth. Both of you, but mostly you." I could barely breathe. My chest was tight with a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, confusion. It was clear that this wasn't just about infidelity anymore. There was something deeper at play here, something more complicated than just two people making a mistake. I turned to Tom, waiting for him to say something, anything, but he remained silent, his face filled with shame. "Why did you do it?" I asked him, my voice trembling. "Why did you betray me like this? Was I not enough?" Tom flinched, but he didn't speak. I could see the guilt in his eyes, but it was too late for apologies now. Nothing could take back what had been done. Vanessa stepped forward. "It wasn't just about Tom, you know. I need to be honest. This started off as something small, something innocent. He came to me for comfort, but it spiraled, and I should have stopped it, but I didn't. I didn't stop myself, and I didn't stop him. She paused, and the weight of her words hung heavy in the room. Her admission wasn't just a confession of an affair, it was a deeper revelation. It was as if she was acknowledging that she had played a role in breaking something precious, and now she was coming clean. "I'm not here to take responsibility for what he did," she continued, "but I want you to know that I had feelings for him too, and I feel awful for the pain we've caused you. I thought you should hear it from me, not from someone else. He wasn't just being deceitful with you, he was deceiving both of us." My mind was racing. How could this be happening? How could everything that I had known about my marriage be a lie? How could the person I trusted most, Tom, allow all of this to unfold? He had dragged someone else into our life, and now they were both standing here in front of me, telling me things I didn't want to hear. I felt the anger start to boil inside me again, and I knew I had to leave the room for a moment. I needed to think. I couldn't process all of this in one sitting. My emotions were too raw, too fresh. "I can't do this right now," I said through clenched teeth, standing up. "I need time to think." Before I could walk away, Vanessa spoke again. "I understand, and I'm sorry for all the pain this has caused you. I just wanted to be honest with you." I didn't know how to respond. The truth was, I didn't know what to think anymore. My world had been turned upside down. I felt like I had lost everything in a matter of minutes. The life I had spent years building, the trust I had placed in Tom, had all been destroyed. As I walked out of the room, my mind kept spiraling. How could I ever trust him again? The thought kept echoing in my mind. But what Vanessa had said, the fact that she wasn't just some stranger, haunted me. It wasn't just an affair. It was an emotional betrayal, too. And I wasn't sure how I would ever come back from that. I walked to the balcony and stared out at the city skyline, trying to collect my thoughts. But nothing made sense anymore. Tom had crossed a line, and I didn't know if there was any way to go back. This wasn't just about the affair. It was about everything that had been hidden beneath the surface. And now, the full truth had come crashing down, and I was left to pick up the pieces. The next few days felt like a whirlwind. Everything was moving too fast, and yet, it felt like I was stuck in one spot, unable to move forward or backward. I had confronted Tom and heard his weak apologies, but the truth, the reality, was far more complicated than I ever imagined. Vanessa's presence in our home that night was unsettling, but it also planted a seed of doubt. There was more to this affair than I had initially thought, more than just two people falling into temptation. Something wasn't adding up. I needed answers, and I couldn't find peace until I had them. I decided to meet with Vanessa. I didn't know why I thought it was a good idea, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that there were still pieces of the puzzle I didn't understand. Why had she come forward with the truth? Why hadn't she just let things play out and stayed out of my life? What was her role in all of this? I called her. Her voice, when she answered, sounded almost relieved. "I knew you'd call. I didn't expect it to be this soon, but I understand." We set a meeting at a small cafe downtown. I was anxious as I made my way there, but something inside me told me I had to meet with her. There were too many unanswered questions. I had to hear her side of the story before I made any decisions about what came next for me and Tom. When I arrived, I spotted Vanessa immediately. She was sitting in the corner booth, her eyes focused on the table. She looked tired, worn down. There was an obvious heaviness to her demeanor, and the way she glanced up as I approached made my heart ache. For a moment, I felt sympathy for her. She wasn't just a homewrecker. She was a woman who had made a terrible choice, just like Tom. As I sat down across from her, she didn't waste time. "I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but I need to explain something to you." I sat back, my arms crossed. You've got one chance to explain everything, Vanessa. Tell me why you thought this was okay. Why did you allow this to happen? And don't try to justify it to me. I'm not interested in excuses. She nodded, taking a deep breath before speaking. It wasn't just about Tom. It wasn't even about the affair, not at first. You need to understand that there's a deeper reason why all of this happened, and you deserve to know. The truth is, I didn't come into this blind. I came into this because of you. I blinked, confused. What do you mean? What does this have to do with me? Vanessa's voice softened as she leaned forward, her eyes meeting mine with a vulnerability I hadn't expected. I didn't just fall in love with Tom. In a way, I fell in love with the life you two had, the life I thought I wanted. You were happy, you were successful, beautiful, and everything I wasn't. I felt like I was on the outside looking in. When Tom started confiding in me, I began to realize how broken I was. I wasn't happy in my own life, and I was so envious of what you had. My heart sank as her words settled into my mind. She didn't just want him, she wanted my life. I know it sounds crazy, she continued, but I thought I could have it all. I wanted the attention, the affection, the way he looked at me when he thought no one was watching. He told me that his marriage wasn't perfect, that you didn't understand him the way I did. He said that you two were distant, that he felt lonely, and I thought I could fill that gap for him. I shook my head, my mind reeling. So this wasn't about love? It was about competition? Vanessa didn't answer immediately, instead lowering her gaze as if the weight of her actions was finally hitting her. I suppose it was, in a way. I wanted to feel like I belonged, and when he started to give me that attention, I convinced myself that it wasn't wrong. But it wasn't just him. I became obsessed with the idea of living your life. I wanted to be the perfect wife. I wanted to be the one who could keep him happy in the way I thought you couldn't. I sat back, shocked, as everything began to make sense. So, all this time, Tom was right about one thing. It wasn't just about the affair. It was about your own insecurities. And he played into that. Vanessa nodded. Yes, I won't deny that. But after a while, it got out of hand. I couldn't stop myself. And Tom, he's not innocent in this either. I don't think he ever truly saw me. He was just looking for validation. He was looking for someone to tell him he was important. A silence fell between us. I sat there, digesting what Vanessa had said. My mind was racing. The betrayal wasn't just about love gone wrong. It was about insecurities and unmet needs. Both Tom and Vanessa had become prisoners of their own emotions, their own desires. But the twist was that it wasn't just about one person breaking the trust. It was about both of them using each other to escape their own realities. I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. I realized that the affair wasn't entirely about me or Tom or even Vanessa. It was about a toxic cycle they both got trapped in. They both wanted things they couldn't have, and in the process, they hurt the one person who trusted them the most. Me. So what now? I asked quietly, looking at Vanessa. She sighed deeply, her eyes filled with regret. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I hope you understand why it happened, and I hope you can find a way to heal from this, with or without him. He's not the man you thought he was, and I know that's hard to accept. I stared at her for a moment before speaking softly. I don't know if I can forgive you, but I can start healing, and that's what matters. Vanessa nodded, standing up. I'll leave you to make your decision. I just wanted to be honest with you. As she walked away, I realized something. The pain was still there, but with each new piece of the puzzle falling into place, I was starting to see the bigger picture. I had to let go of the idea of what I thought my life was, what I thought love should be. And with that understanding, I could finally begin the process of moving on. A few days after my conversation with Vanessa, I found myself in a strange limbo. I had learned so much about Tom, about Vanessa, and even about myself. but the truth still felt surreal. Part of me wanted to just walk away from everything, to leave it all behind and start fresh. But there was a part of me that still cared for Tom, despite his betrayal. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about the life we had built together and the person he used to be. I thought I had all the answers, that I knew what my next step should be. But just when I thought I was starting to heal, the unexpected happened. It was a typical Thursday evening. I had just finished work and was about to sit down with a cup of tea when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to pick up. Hello? I answered, my voice a little shaky. Is this Emma? The voice on the other end was familiar, but I couldn't quite place it. There was a slight tremor in their voice, like they were nervous. Yes, this is Emma. Who's calling? I asked, confused. This is Karen, the voice said. I think we need to talk. The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Karen was another name I had never heard before, but something in her voice told me that this wasn't just another random call. She continued, I'm the woman Tom was seeing before you found out everything. The affair with Vanessa, it's not what you think. There's something else you need to know. My heart stopped. A rush of emotions flooded over me. Another woman? Just when I thought the entire truth had come out, this Karen woman was telling me that there was even more to uncover. My hands trembled as I gripped the phone tighter. What do you mean? I managed to ask, barely able to breathe. What else could there possibly be? Karen sighed heavily, as if she had been carrying this secret for far too long. I didn't want to be the one to tell you, but I can't keep it to myself anymore. Tom didn't just have an affair with Vanessa. He's been seeing multiple women behind your back, including me. The room seemed to tilt as I processed her words. Multiple women? My mind couldn't comprehend what she was saying. This wasn't just about a mistake. This wasn't a temporary lapse in judgment. This was a pattern of lies, deceit, and betrayal. And here I was, thinking I was the one who had been the victim of this affair. But now I realized that Tom had been leading a double life. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Because you deserve to know the whole truth, Emma, Karen said, her voice filled with regret. I met Tom years ago, before he met you. We had an affair. He promised me that it would just be us, but he kept lying to me, telling me that you didn't understand him, that you weren't giving him what he needed. And I believed him. But when I found out about Vanessa, I realized how deep his lies went. I couldn't stay silent anymore. I sat there, stunned, unable to speak for a moment. The betrayal was deeper than I could have ever imagined. Multiple women? How had I been so blind? I thought I knew everything about Tom, but in reality, I didn't know anything at all. You're saying he had affairs with multiple women? I asked, still trying to wrap my mind around it. How could I have not known? Karen's voice softened. I'm sorry, Emma. I know it's a lot to take in, but you need to hear it. He lied to both of us, and he's been playing this game for a long time. You're not the only one he's betrayed. I felt like the ground was slipping out from under me. It wasn't just the affair with Vanessa that had broken me. It was the realization that Tom had been lying to me for years. I had trusted him with everything, but he had taken that trust and shattered it into a million pieces. How do I even begin to process this? I whispered, feeling completely lost. Karen sighed, the sadness in her voice palpable. I don't know, but I think you should confront him, get the full truth from him. You deserve that much. And then when you're ready, you need to decide if you want to keep living in this lie or if you want to move on. Because this is not a healthy place for you to stay. I didn't know what to say to that. How could I move on from this? How could I ever trust again after everything Tom had done? And why had he let this happen? Why hadn't he been honest with me from the beginning? I'll think about it, I said softly. But I need some time. Thank you for telling me this. Karen's voice was gentle. I know it's a lot, but I thought you should hear it from me. I'm sorry for the pain he's caused you. I hung up the phone, my mind spinning. How could I possibly trust anything about Tom anymore? The man I had loved, the man I had built my life around, was nothing but a stranger now. His actions, his deceit, had stripped away everything that I had believed about our marriage. But in that moment, I realized something else. I had the power to choose what came next. It was no longer about Tom, about his lies, or his broken promises. It was about me. I didn't have to continue living in the shadow of his betrayal. I could choose to let go, to walk away from this toxic relationship, and to reclaim the life that was rightfully mine. I stood up, staring out the window, trying to make sense of the storm inside me. But I knew one thing for sure. I was done living in the dark. The truth had been exposed, and now it was time for me to take control of my own future. As the days passed after my conversation with Karen, I couldn't stop thinking about the truth she had revealed. The weight of it all was crushing, but in some strange way, it also gave me clarity. The pieces were falling into place. Tom's actions were no longer just a betrayal of love. They were a betrayal of who I was, a manipulation of my trust. I spent a lot of time reflecting on what Karen had said. She was right. I deserved to know the whole truth. It wasn't just about one affair. It was about a pattern, a series of lies, and broken promises. It wasn't just a mistake. It was deliberate. The realization hit me hard. Tom wasn't the man I thought he was. I decided I needed to confront him once and for all. I had to hear his side, though deep down I knew what the truth was. But I also knew that I needed to be sure. I needed him to admit it, to look me in the eyes and tell me everything. The truth, no matter how painful, had to come from him. I waited until the evening when he came home from work. He entered the house, looking the same as he always did, tired but somehow calm. I felt my pulse quicken as I stood up to face him. This was the moment. The truth was going to be laid bare, and there was no turning back. Tom, I said, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. We need to talk. His face shifted as he looked at me, his eyes filled with uncertainty. He probably knew what was coming, but I couldn't hold back anymore. I already know everything, I said, watching his expression closely. I know about Vanessa. I know about Karen. I know about the other women. Tom froze, his face draining of color. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words didn't come. For the first time since I'd known him, he was speechless. Why, Tom? I continued, my voice quieter now, but still firm. Why did you do this to me? To us? How long did you think you could keep this hidden? Tom ran his hands through his hair, clearly agitated. I didn't mean for it to happen, he said in a low, desperate voice. I never wanted to hurt you, Emma. You have to believe that. But you did, I said, cutting him off. You hurt me. You broke everything, all the promises, all the trust. It was all a lie. His gaze dropped to the floor, and for a moment, I thought he might break down. But then, in a twist I wasn't prepared for, he looked up at me with something entirely different in his eyes. Something darker, more calculating. There's something else you need to know, he said, his voice suddenly cold. The affair wasn't just about you and me. It was about something much bigger. And I'm not the one you should be angry at. My heart skipped a beat. What are you talking about? I demanded, my mind already racing. Was this another excuse? Another attempt to shift the blame? Karen wasn't just some woman I had an affair with, he said slowly, the words chilling me to my core. She's the one who started all of this. She was the one who pushed me to do it. She kept saying how unhappy I was in our marriage, how I deserved better. She made me believe that our relationship was falling apart. She manipulated me into thinking I was missing something. My world seemed to tilt, and I felt the blood drain from my face. Are you telling me that Karen is the reason you cheated on me? That she made you do this? I was almost incredulous, the idea so absurd that I couldn't process it. Tom nodded, but his eyes weren't filled with the remorse I had hoped for. Instead, they were filled with something darker: resentment, anger, and, most shockingly, justification. I didn't want to hurt you, he repeated, but I had to find happiness too. I had to fill the void. My anger surged again, stronger than ever before. How could he sit there and put the blame on someone else? How could he try to convince me that I wasn't enough for him? My chest tightened with frustration. You're the one who made the choices, Tom, I snapped, my voice shaking with emotion. You're the one who betrayed me. Not Karen, not anyone else. You. The room fell silent for a moment as Tom's words hit me like a slap to the face. But as he continued, something shifted in me. I realized something I hadn't considered before. His behavior wasn't just about Karen or Vanessa or any of the other women. It was his own inability to value what he had. It was his lack of integrity that broke us, not the people he blamed. The truth was, Tom wasn't someone I recognized anymore. He was a man lost in his own selfishness, and I wasn't going to be the one to save him. Tom, I can't do this anymore, I said quietly. I can't keep living this lie. You've destroyed what we had, and you've destroyed my trust in you. I don't care what your reasons were. I don't care about your excuses. I'm done. The look on his face was a mixture of shock and regret, but it didn't change anything. I was done. I had spent so long trying to fix what was broken, but now I realized that some things are beyond repair. Do you want me to leave? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. I looked at him one last time, the man I had once trusted with everything, and I finally understood. I didn't need him anymore. I was stronger than I had ever known. Yes, I said, the finality of my words echoing through the room. Please leave. As he gathered his things and walked out the door, I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. It wasn't because I was happy he was gone, but because I was finally free. Free from the lies, free from the hurt, and most importantly, free from someone who didn't deserve my love. I knew there was a long road ahead of me, healing, growing, rediscovering who I was. But in that moment, I knew one thing for sure. I was no longer a victim of his choices. I was reclaiming my life, and I was ready to move forward.